Yes, here we are. Sports Bet Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Thursday, August 24th. Big game breakdown, all football, 2 preseason games, Patriots and Lions, Chiefs and Seahawks on CBS. And the season starts for real Saturday, our first college football game, 5 games. This one starts the season, Oregon State, Colorado State, and play of the day before we get out of here. A moose to start the show. Unheard of. Rich Hill throws a no-hitter, and the Dodgers can't get the win. I was talking to our stats guy. He made an excellent point. Why did they bring Hill out in the 10th inning after all the time he spent on the DL in his career? No hitter, walk off in the 10th. Dodgers lose 1-0.
I mean, this is truly an epically bad beat. Epic. It's a moose, Pauly. It is a legitimate moose. And of course, when I was down in Costa Rica for the IFBC, the International Football Betting Conference, I was talking with guys. They're like, what's a moose? They never heard of a moose. This is the definition of a moose. Your guy throws a friggin' no-no, and you lose your bet. Rich Hill, the first pitcher in the last 100 seasons to throw at least 9 innings, allow 1 or fewer hits with no walks, and get a loss. Obviously, Josh Harrelson with the walk-off home run for Pittsburgh. And, of course, the tweet from ESPN Stats and Info. This is the first time in MLB history that a walk-off home run has broken up a no-hit bid. Guess what? That's a moose. It's the definition of a moose. My condolences if you had the Dodgers last night.
Yeah, he could be a go against next time out, too. I can't believe they brought him out there for the 10th, but he was filthy with 10 strikeouts. Bad bet. We have a race in the NL wildcard as the Rockies and the Diamondbacks continue to struggle. Holland blew another save in the 9th. Rockies lose, and then the Diamondbacks took a lot of money, went off $1.85 against the Mets, who they've owned the last couple of years, but they got beat.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a legit wild card race in the National League now, and there wasn't a month ago. You know, the D-backs and the Rockies have both slumped so badly. The Brewers only 3 games back, St. Louis only 4 games back, Miami only 5.5 games back. Another bad loss for Arizona. Last night they took a ton of money. That was a bad bet.
And this one didn't make a ton of sense as far as I'm concerned. The 40-cent move on the Reds against the Cubs, who they just ripped Wojciechowski the last time he pitched. He was on the mound last night. I know it was Montgomery for the Cubs, but it was 9-0 in the 4th inning.
Yeah, I mean, they were betting Chris Bryant, or the lack of Chris Bryant for Chicago. He wasn't in the lineup. The money poured in on Cincinnati. Heavy steam. Cubs open -150. They were bet all the way down to -110 in that ballgame. Obviously, the absence of Bryant didn't matter one iota. Tommy La Stella played third base. And, oh, by the way, he had a 3-run home run. And as you mentioned, the Cubs were up 9-0 by the 4th. It was garbage time thereafter.
And Edward Jackson had been okay, but not last night. Nationals took money, plus $1.65 down to $1.40, and they get beat. Astros get the win.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Jackson only charged with 2 runs over 6 innings, but he only had 1 strikeout of the 27 batters that he faced. And certainly, you know that maybe his resurgence has taken some people by surprise, but you have to expect regression. Nats, yeah, they were a bad bet last night.
Bad for the books. The Severino train keeps on a rolling. 50-cent move on the Yankees, bet up from 210 to 260. They had an easy win again. And the Red Sox, Kluber pitched well, but he got the loss. Couldn't get any run support. Red Sox took money, went down to $1.40. Pomerantz does it again. He's won his last 7 decisions.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, these are 2 things, again, you don't want to pat yourself on the back too much. But here on SportsBit, we've been talking about Severino since April and what a moneymaker this guy is and how his advanced metric stats were way ahead of the numbers. Obviously, the markets have caught up. Severino has caught up with how good his potential is, and he's throwing like an ace right now. Books took a beating on the Yankees last night. It was the same story with Boston. I was stunned at that opener. It's like Pomerantz is in tremendous form. We've talked repeatedly this season right here on SportsBit about how he's a better pitcher to support on the highway than he is at Fenway. And to see Kluber, laying $1.90 in that game of the opener, you knew the money had to come on Boston. The money did come on Boston. And look, the Red Sox didn't do much against Kluber. He had 12 strikeouts, only allowed 4 hits, but, 2-1 game, and they broke it open with 4 in the 9th. Pomerantz now 13-4, 3.18. He, outstanding current form. The books put up a bad number. They paid a price as a result.
And maybe a moment of silence for Brock Osweiler's career in Cleveland, at least his time in Cleveland. He won't even play Saturday in the third preseason game. Kaiser gets the start. The Browns trying to trade him. Good luck. He makes $16 million. Browns maybe want to, let's say they'll eat half of that, but not good that he had the support of the locker room. They asked Hugh Jackson about it. What does he have to do to be the quarterback week one? He said, ask the general manager. Looks like it's Kaiser's job if he plays well Saturday.
Yeah, no question. I mean, they're doing everything they can to allow Deshaun Kaiser to win this job. But the crazy thing about this game, it's off the board. The asked sports director, why is it off the board? Quarterback uncertainty. Are you kidding me? Why is this game, a preseason game, off the board because the backup quarterback for Cleveland might be traded? It's insane to me to see this game not being lined right now. That being said, we got a good quote here from Hugh Jackson that I want to read, talking about what's going on at the QB position for Cleveland. Quote, Kaiser has made a lot of progress by investing the time necessary to learn our offense, working hard to improve on his fundamentals, while also effectively moving the offense in preseason games. Development is so important for a young quarterback, and this is the next step he needs to take, and he deserves this opportunity. We are very excited about seeing Deshaun in the role of the starter for this week. He is certainly positioning himself well to earn the starting job heading into the regular season. Without Osweiler, it does look like it's going to be Cody Kessler and Kevin Hogan in the second half for Cleveland. That's not exactly a bet-on duo, if we ever see a line for this game, Pauly.
Up next, big game breakdown. Patriots and the Lions on Friday, and the Chiefs and Seahawks on CBS on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, betting insight today. Time for big game breakdown. But last chance before we do that, BetOnline wants to buy your Mayweather-McGregor pay-per-view, $100 value. Retweet this message. That's all you have to do to enter through Saturday, and you're in. Hopefully you win. Must have a BetOnline account to qualify. Thanks to BetOnline, they want to pay for your pay-per-view. So let them retweet the message. We'll preview the fight on tomorrow's show. NFL, Patriots and Lions Friday. 2.5, 44 the total, under -120. Patriots 0-2, Lions 2-0. Money already showing on New England. Pick them up to 2.5, which usually happens when it's 0-2 against 2-0. Who knows what Belichick wants to do here? Brady 6-9 with 67 yards and a touchdown over 2 series last week. I don't know if he'll get that same work. But Garoppolo, maybe he needs the work. 2 turnovers, a sack, a fumble, and an interception. He said, quote, the O-line did a great job for me tonight. The sack fumble was my fault. You can't have that happen. I'm the quarterback. It's my fault, end quote. What do you think Hoodie wants to do in this one?
Well, let's talk about the markets real quick, because this is a classic knee-jerk. You're going to see it in the preseason. You're also going to see it in week 3 of the regular season. That is the 0-2 versus the 2-0. And the markets will always, I shouldn't say always, almost always knee-jerk towards the team that hasn't won a game over the team that's supposedly fat and happy at 2-0. And that is at least part of the reason why we've seen the money come in on New England this week. And there's been significant money. This is not a light move towards the Patriots. When you're talking about trying to predict Hoodie, and I don't get involved with a lot of New England games in the preseason, because Hoodie doesn't give any information. And betting preseason is all about getting good information about what the coach wants to do. But he doesn't say anything. Garoppolo certainly had a rough week last week. Brady's a guy who doesn't need a ton of work with the first string offense. So one would anticipate, in theory, that we'll see a lot of Garoppolo in this ballgame. But you know how it is with Hoodie. When the coach doesn't tell you what he's going to do and his mum about his plans, those aren't the type of games I'm particularly interested in wagering on in preseason. Certainly not a situation where I'm excited about betting on New England. I don't think Hoodie cares that the Patriots are 0-2 in August. I don't think he would care if they were 0-4 in the preseason. But the markets do what they do, which is an auto knee-jerk towards the 0-2 team.
Lions trying to work on their running game, which is 25th and 27th on Football Outsiders' rushing efficiency charts the last 2 seasons. One of the best names in all of football, the OC, Jim Bob Cooter. It's been a big point of emphasis for me, dealing with my own background, what I've gone through. It's been an important point of emphasis for me this offseason. I think I've personally improved in the run game, how I see things, how I call things. I know we're going to run the ball more efficiently I'm very confident of that. End quote. The other problem is, I think since 2014, Stafford is dead last in yards per pass attempt, which it's been a dink and dunk offense as well. Caldwell, there's an old saying, you achieve what you emphasize. It's always going to be an emphasis until I'm satisfied with it. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes longer than what you'd like. In some cases, that's the way it is. Not an easy fix. What do you expect out of Detroit in this one, other than Jim Bob Cooter trying to get the running game going?
Well, that's worth noting because the Lions have spent the first 2 games of the preseason kind of chucking the football around a little bit. And it doesn't look like that's going to be the game plan this week or next week for Detroit. Totals bettors need to note, Lions want to get Amir Abdullah going. And here's a guy that certainly he was a difference maker at the college level at Nebraska, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy in Detroit. Only 161 rushes, only 30 catches his first 2 seasons. He only played in 2 games last year. Don't be surprised if the Lions hand the ball off a lot in this ballgame, because that Caldwell quote tells you everything you need to know. This is a point of emphasis. We need to run the football. Sometimes it takes longer than what you like, but it's not an easy fix, and we can anticipate Detroit methodically trying to run the football in this one, which is perhaps another reason why we've seen some of the New England money.
Game number 2. Bet online number, Chiefs and Seahawks. It's Friday on CBS. No Tony Romo. His wife had a bun out of the oven, so he'll spend time with his new kid. Seahawks 3.5, 42.5 the total. No secret, Carroll likes to win these games. He's awesome when he can beat Mike Zimmer. He's now 30-16 straight up and 31-14-1 ATS. But Wilson was 13 of 18 for 206 and 2 touchdowns. He also played the week before and led a field goal drive, so he's already ready to go in season shape. But again, we talked about Boykin is dangerous and good in the preseason. 17-23, 244, and 6 runs for 45 yards and a touchdown. As we see most times in the second half of preseason games, the play will break down. Give me the guy who can scramble.
Yeah, no question. I mean, if you want to talk about preseason QB MVPs, you might have a pair of contenders in this game with Boykin on the one side, a guy we'll talk about in a minute, Patrick Mahomes, on the other side. Certainly Boykin has been tremendous for Seattle. He's the reason why they've done, I don't think it's just this season either, to have a guy like Boykin as your backup or your third stringer going against reserve defenders. He's a playmaker, and he was at TCU, and he has been throughout the preseason with the Seahawks. That at least is a part of the reason why Carroll's record lately has been so good. But obviously, we're talking about 31-14-1 ATS over the long term. This isn't just a lately thing for the Seahawks. They've been dynamite. Worth noting, however, they saw a ton of Russell Wilson last week, and they also lost their starting left tackle. George Fant tore his ACL against the Vikings, which leaves a weak offensive line, an offensive line in flux without a left tackle here. I'm not convinced we're going to see a ton of Russell Wilson in this ballgame.
They're going crazy in Kansas City. They want a quarterback controversy because Mahomes so far is 17-23 for 137 yards and 3 touchdowns. Andy Reid said, calm down, stop it. Quote, that's not where we're at. It's Alex Jobs. That's what we're going to do. There's no gray area with that. He told the media Wednesday that the Kansas City starters will play for 3 quarters on Friday, and the backups will finish the game. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, this isn't one of those games where you're going to see the third string guys, the fourth string guys, the guys who aren't going to make the roster for KC. It's starters for 3 quarters. Now, Mahomes may well get in with the starting offense if Smith already has a couple of touchdowns under his belt. That's the theory, at least for Kansas City, that they would like to get Mahomes some snaps with that first string offense. But obviously, there's Andy Reid's making it very clear. The first 2 weeks of the preseason against backup defenders is not the same as winning the starting QB job in September. Alex Smith is their guy. But when you're talking about a coach with a pretty good preseason track record in week 3, and he says, guess what? I'm going to be playing my starters and then my reserves. They aren't going to see the scrubs in this one. Let's put it this way. I'm surprised the markets haven't adjusted more than they had based on that particular bit of factual news.
Yeah, we'll get back to this one coming up. College football is here. It starts with Oregon State and Colorado State Saturday afternoon, and that's next on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, wrapping it up on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown continues. Powered by Bet Online. Exceptional customer service, strong promotions, and every type of wager you want. Saturday afternoon, CBS College Sports Network, Oregon State at Colorado State. Colorado State is 58.5 the total. Colorado State, a brand new stadium that opens, and a 9,000 square foot training room. Here's Ryan Davis. This might be the first quote we've ever had from the strength and conditioning coach. Our training isn't dictated by the room anymore. We can do whatever we want. We're not limited with equipment. We literally have everything we need to prepare our way the team we want to, end quote. And they got some momentum here with Bobo, who is entering his third season. They closed 5-2 straight up and 7-0 ATS down the stretch. They lost by 5 at Boise on the Smurf turf and by 3 at Air Force. And everything changed when Nick Stevens, the quarterback, came back in.
Yeah, it sure did. I mean, Stevens started as a sophomore in 2015, and he had a terrible opening to the season last year. Remember that Colorado game early on where I think it was week 1. They got annihilated in that contest. Stevens was terrible. He got benched. But, man, he caught fire when he returned back to the lineup. The offense scored 42, 37, 46, 49, 63, and 50 over the last 6 games. So we're talking about a team, third-year head coaches. We love third-year head coaches, and their systems are in place, and their recruits are in place. That's what we got from Bobo. Remember, he's an SEC guy coaching in the Mountain West. We expect this program to be at a positive trajectory. And then, all right, you have the chance to get a Pac-12 foe at home with a new stadium. Oh, by the way, you're in great condition, and your strength is up to the max because you have this new weight room. There's a lot to like about Colorado State, both this season and in this ballgame. But Oregon State, I don't know they're going to be a pushover here. I really don't, Pauly.
Well, it is a big deal. I'm glad you pointed that out. It's not a good Pac-12 team, but it's still a Pac-12 team going on the road, and they get to play them. So it's a big deal for Colorado State. Gary Anderson hasn't done much so far. They won 12 games in the first 2 seasons before he was there. They've won 6 in the first 2 with him. As the quarterback play's been atrocious. They are 118 in passing efficiency last year. They have a talented running back in Null. It's 6.2 yards per carry. As a freshman, 951 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns as a sophomore. Pretty good numbers to try to open up the offense, but it's the question again, as it's been lousy the last couple of years. Is there anything at quarterback?
Well, and look, I was reading a ton about Oregon State in their fall camp. And Anderson's a guy who's been involved with one major turnaround at Utah State. That's where he got this. He was his first head coach in his first 2 years at Utah State. The team didn't really show a whole lot of signs. All of a sudden, year 3, that team exploded and has been in the upper half of the Mountain West Conference ever since. So he took over at Wisconsin, didn't really work out there, jumped for Oregon State. And not like it didn't work out, but he jumped for the Oregon State job, and here he is. So this is a team that had been decent under Mike Riley, which is about as good as you can hope. Trying to recruit to Corvallis. If you're decent, if you're competitive, that has to be successful for the Oregon State program. Well, they haven't been competitive in the first 2 years of Anderson, as you mentioned, after going from 12 wins in the 2 years before he got here, only 6 wins the last 2 years. Now, in theory, they have a quarterback this year, the JUCO and Jake Ludon. He's 6'7". He's a big guy. He's been chucking the ball around in practice pretty well this preseason. Defensively, Beaver's strength is their secondary. That secondary has been real good. And what they're hoping to do game plan wise in this contest, they want to stuff the run. They want to force Colorado State to throw against their top-notch cornerbacks. So the game plan for in-game wagering or anything like this, if Oregon State isn't stopping the run, they're going to get pounded in this contest because that's what their whole defensive game plan is designed to do. Definitely something to pay attention to in the first quarter of that one if you want to make an in-game wager.
All right, that leads us to Money Time, play of the day. Back to the Chiefs and Seahawks, betting number 257, 258. Let's go over 42.5. Boykin against Mahomes in the second half. We expect fireworks in a shootout in that one. Let's go up and over the total, 257, 258 over 42.5. We close it out strong tomorrow. The best bet of our lifetime, no doubt. Mayweather, McGregor, and more NFL on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Thanks for watching.